Welcome to Security Insider Conversations, your home to insights, guidance, and expertise from within the Microsoft security ecosystem. It's not a podcast, it's a conversation. Now onto the discussion.
Hello and welcome back to Security Insider Conversations. I'm Elliot and I am here with Joe Cicero, a director over at Security Risk Advisors. We're going to be talking about a pretty unique and interesting topic. And I say unique, although the world is everything about AI right now, which is about AI and technology and how it's being applied to security operations centers or SOC. So Joe, let's actually start with maybe a little self-introduction, give a little bit of background about what you're doing before we kind of dig into that wonderful world.
Sure. 50 minutes later, started off as an AP World History teacher, fell in love with educational technology, and then got really into Intune, brought me over to Microsoft for some time, specifically helping partners. Then that grew into security because Intune is now part of that security story. And then left Microsoft, left the mothership to go to a partner, Security Risk Advisors, where I manage our strategic alliances, our marketing, events, and really making sure Security Risk Advisors is a Microsoft first partner.
Interesting. So I've got to ask the question, how much education are you still focusing on?
I don't get to focus on as much anymore as I used to or I would love to. Still higher ed. We serve a lot of higher ed customers, a lot of medical universities as well. So I'm still in touch. And then on the side, I belong to some boards and some charities that keep me plugged in. That's my after tech job. I would love to go back to teaching.
I love it. That is my retirement plan.
All right, cool.
Yeah, very cool. So let me cover a little spiel. So I'm set the tone for our conversation, which is over the past year, we have seen an explosion of security tools claiming to use AI to automate investigations, run the SOC, or even replace analysts, which we know not the reality. The SOC analysts and L1, we need those. So can't really replace them with technology. Also, if we did that, we wouldn't have a pipeline for all the more advanced people. That being said, organizations, though the reality and noise, it is creating potentially more noise, more alerts, a little bit more complexity, at least right now. Today, we're going to be talking about exactly how we can cut through some of that hype and evaluate what technology is in play. So, Joe, that is specifically why we have you here and your expertise. Maybe you can also help bring in some of that education factor on reality versus hype. But security teams are currently being pitched on AI solutions constantly right now through autonomous SOCs, agents, automated investigations. From your perspective, working with organizations like these, what do you feel like the biggest gap is between the promises that are being made versus the reality that they are experiencing right now?
First off, a lot of empathy for the customers out there, the businesses that their inboxes are full. If you're a CISO, doesn't matter what platform you're on, it's AI everything. And yes, that's what the vendors are saying, but there's also the partner ecosystem that's also, it's saying, all right, we can help you with that. And then there's the boards, right, that the CISOs report into, and they're like, hey, how are you using AI? So like the AI hype is very real and you feel it from all around, but the questions when you start to poke in and the big gaps are, if the AI is reading bad data, it doesn't make it great, right? It doesn't fix your pipelines. It doesn't fix your telemetries. It doesn't fix anything that's already broken. It amplifies it. And if it's good, then it goes great. But if it's bad, it gets badder. Probably not a word, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out.
So I think that's a big thing. I think another thing to touch on is we talked about AI probably a couple of years ago on, hey, let's bring it to our analysts to experiment with, and maybe it's a morale boost. Hey, we're going to bring you AI. We're innovative. This SOC is, built for the year 2050. Come in and try it all out. And that was great early on when there was some poking around. But now I think we have an abundance of tools where it's like, oh, you go to a conference, you meet with a vendor, and you're like, I got this tool, that tool, and you just start throwing it at your analysts. And the analysts are measured on, mean time to acknowledge, mean time to respond.
Right.
Not necessarily innovation. They are creative. They are innovative. We see that in their investigations. We see that in the reports they write. But if we're throwing 50 tools at them, that starts to really not solve morale. It doesn't solve efficiency. And it might actually start to create some resentment of, oh, the boss went to another conference or sat in another webinar, and now we have to go try X, Y, Z. Meanwhile, my queue's full and this job is kicking my butt.
You know what? I think the biggest challenge that I have with this entire equation is, although it's meant well, like the technology should be used for this, and like the utopia that sits behind the wall of like that is the desired state of, yes, they move faster, they're able to reduce risk organizationally. But I think from the technology perspective, those who are creating it, they're kind of ignoring the norms and user behavior
Mhm.
of like, where's the psychology and how is this going to impact an existing team? And are they being guided through what the next iteration of a future stock looks like? Like we see the marketing, it's like, the future of stock. But
Yeah.
like, have they thought about how that functions today and what all the many different steps are to get there?
I think at the end of the day, you have to start by growing your people, not
Yes.
growing your toolbox.
Love that.
Right. And
Yes.
are you giving them the tools in a very operationally focused way for them to use it so that they can say, oh, this is amazing. This makes me stronger, faster,
Right.
whatever we want to throw in there for terms versus, oh, maybe this fits. Maybe is not great when we're talking about security, right? Maybe is one of
Correct.
those no words.
That is exactly right. So I want to move a little bit backwards. One of the things that you were very clearly articulating is bad data obviously is not a friend to anything in the equation here. What should organizations be considering to reduce that? Like, obviously, AI implementation, it's moving fast. It's just happening. It's everywhere. And we can't stop it. We can't necessarily slow it down. But what can teams do right now to, I guess, reduce some of the challenges associated with bad data?
Right. I think the age of AI has taught us the importance of products like Microsoft Purview. It's taught us the importance of how you've deployed your technology. Have you tuned everything?
Yep.
And then when we start applying AI to it, the question is, all right, where's AI actually looking at this data? Is it happening within your SIM? Is it happening within your tenant, your environment? Because then you kind of feel safe because you have your RBAC controls, you have all of your policies are there versus are you shipping it to somewhere else? Or is it, we're going to use some non-technical terms. Is it copying and pasting information from your SIM to some LLM somewhere without any context, without any training, without any containerization, and just saying, okay, here's a lot of stuff. What does this mean? And then shooting it back as if it's real and verified, right? Because AI can make ugly data look amazing, right? You can say, here's a screenshot of something, make beautiful charts and graphs that make me look like, a Fortune 500 CEO. And it does it. That doesn't mean that the underlying data is good. So I think going back to the engineering and tuning, and I know that's not necessarily analyst work. A lot of times that's more on your delivery team, or maybe you have a partner coming in, but understanding that that's a key piece to your AI story.
Interesting. So if I'm hearing that correctly, I think we're talking about sort of like AI wrappers around using just like standard commercialized or like,
I mean, it's
super
the
thirst.
AI wrapper thing is so popular.
Yeah.
You go into any, you're scrolling the web, you're going to a conference,
I
and
know.
everyone's got like, you have
Yeah.
great swag, right? Great swag, bright lights, glitz. And at the end of the day, it's just a copy paste tool that's coming back with no context, no training, but it looks good, right? And if it looks good, I hate to say it, but that sometimes gives a false illusion of trust,
Oh,
right? And then you're going to have this false belief that, oh, well, I have AI in place, and AI said that this is what's going on, and I've protected against it, therefore I'm okay. When who really knows, right? And that's one of the big things I hear from analysts is, if I can't test it and get the same result, I don't trust it, right? And I think that's one of the struggles we have with AI is a lot of times it's hard to pull apart what was the decision tree that actually took place.
Right.
And if I give it the same context, will it get the same result over and over again? I know, Microsoft's done a lot of work on that, on making sure that we can test that.
Right.
Foundry allows us to do that, but that's not the case elsewhere. It really is. It goes into a black box and you either believe in it or you don't believe in it.
Right. So it sounds like transparency is one of those like baseline things that any organization that's building around AI should be taken into consideration.
Which is tough because humans don't think like AI. So it's almost an extra step for the AI model to then explain back to us, hey, here's what happened. Here's why I did what I did.
Right. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense to me. So maybe we can change gears a little bit, and you're sort of already alluding to it. If I'm in a SOC, I'm getting handed off new agents, new technology. Fatigue is already a thing. How, maybe not now on, because hopefully they're not the ones being introduced to brand new technology. Someone else in the SOC or a manager might be exposed to it. But how should a SOC be navigating all this new technology while not distracting from their core mission?
Sure. If we think of security copilot, the key word there is copilot, right? It's not replacement. It's not, this is going to fix my gaps. It's going to, give me special powers. It's going to make me stronger and more efficient, and see it as a supplement, right? If you work out, you might take some, may have extra protein, right? This is what AI is doing for you. And as an analyst, take that same approach. Is this tool making me stronger or faster? If it's not making me stronger and faster, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to use it, right? Because I'm not getting value. We shouldn't use AI for AI's sake. And I know that that's such an old argument where we talked about, like, probably 10 years ago, we shouldn't use the cloud just because we have the cloud, right? We shouldn't use the tech just because we have the tech. Sometimes it's okay to open a physical book. And I think when we look at our tasks and our procedures inside the SOC, does AI actually have a place here? Summarizing an incident? Sure. Super nice.
Right.
Sending a report off to the CISO at the end of the day of, like, hey, here's the incidents. Here was our MTTR, MTTA. Like, that's cool. That's great. They can take that. They can show it off to somebody. But if you have it doing, I don't know, snack breaks, right? That's obviously dumb.
Yeah.
Or if you have it making decisions that you have no insight on, also dumb. As dumb as getting a snack, right? Because if you can't see it, if you can't monitor it, if you can't control it, right? If AI breaks your control plane, right? And as an analyst, you're like, I need to control the environment. That is, I am the safety mechanism. I am the person. And if the AI is giving you that decision power, then you can feel a lot safer than, XYZ program, I click a button and it goes off somewhere and, locks 30 people out of their boxes, but we're safe now and we're using AI, right? And I think that is the slippery slope, and that's the big fear. And I think for analysts, talking to their leadership team, stating their fears, not saying no, right? Never start a conversation with no, but asking, hey, I'm noticing this, I'm wondering this is how I actually use it. And I think the feedback there is very important versus, hey, boss gave me 3 new tools I need to use. I guess I just need to use these in order to, like, get a good performance review. But actually having that type of design loop where it's like, hey, here's how I use it. Here's what's working. Here's what's not working.
I love that. So you already started covering some of the attributes that a security team should be taking into consideration.
You want to dig into those?
Yeah, let's do that. I'd say maybe we move up higher up in that org chart. A security leader is getting pitched left and right, but what questions should they be asking?
So the questions they should be asking when they're evaluating, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They should be asking for, where does the data live? Is it staying in my environment or is it going outside of my environment? That's super important. What data is it actually looking at? Just because it's in my environment doesn't mean that it's looking at my endpoint telemetry and my firewall telemetry, my identity telemetry, my firewall stuff. Like, what is it actually looking at? And let's get a list with some check marks.
Yeah.
And if it's not on there, like, what's the roadmap to get it all on there? Because AI is only as good as the data we feed it.
Yep.
So is it local? Is it looking at all of my security signal? Local meaning within my environment, not a box on-prem. And then from there, what are the controls I have in place? Is it set it and forget it? Or is it I actually have control? I can turn it on, I can turn it off, I approve things. Like, what does improvement look like? Of course, everyone wants the best of the best, but sometimes if you roll out an update in the middle of the night, that could cause some issues if you have operationalized it, right? Because when we think of the SOC, when we think of analysts, it's all about operations. People need to know what their day-to-day is. It's not, yes, creativity is important, all of that, but there is a rhythm of business that needs to flow. And any big change could really impact the business. And that's the last thing you want to do is, how is this going to impact my business? Also, how long has the company been around? What are their big customers that they're working with? Are you there first? And are they brand new? Because if you're rolling this in, SOC teams aren't fast at embracing change because of the amount that they're having to they're fast for them. But if you take 3 months to roll in some new AI tool and that company doesn't exist at the end of 3 months, that doesn't make the CISO look good, doesn't help morale, doesn't help the business stay strong because now they're back looking for that next thing.
Yeah, I think the only way that there would be an exception to that is if it was a very limited use case. Probably wasn't very expensive, or is like a POC. People kind of navigate through that. But yeah, I could imagine even outside of the world of AI with security technology, I think the line that we always hear is like, you never get fired if you have a Microsoft ecosystem for your tech stack. But if you have a brand new one with a couple of seed series funding, maybe a little bit of a gamble.
I
Unless
mean,
it was limited in scope.
if you're already a Microsoft customer, you already have the E5 subscription, then you already have Security Copilot as an entitlement. So
That's true.
you already have an AI solution built for
Yep.
security. But because you're in that Microsoft environment, there's Copilot Studio, there's Foundry, there's really a world ahead of you, right? You could start as
Right.
easy as Security Copilot, and you can go as, quote unquote, hard, 400 level,
Right.
advanced, to where you are that frontier firm building your security stack inside a Foundry. And I think that's the ideal state for all the customers I work with. Rather than,
Right.
going out and buying it, you can actually build it. And that never used to be the argument. The argument used to be, hey, don't waste your time, building something that you could just go buy.
Right.
Right. Why build Microsoft Word when it's already perfect, right? Just bring it in your environment. But I think when we look at AI, because of Foundry, because of the investments Microsoft's made,
Right.
you can actually build things for the long run and you own them, and they're going to be very unique and bespoke to you, and you can change them. So I think that's going to be the direction versus, oh, let's go buy 50 tools. It's like, let's invest in the platform. Let's invest in skilling so that we can build that future ourselves.
I feel like you're reading my mind here
Oh,
a little
no.
bit because no, in a good way. The main thing that I think I want to push us towards is I in particular pulled out some of the negative aspects that we're taking into
Yeah.
account, but there's some very real positive benefits that we're seeing organizations get from various different AI technology. But give me your top 2, top 3. Where do you feel like SOC teams and security teams in particular are benefiting from AI tech?
There's 2 things that we're doing at Security Risk Advisors. We already talked about like the SOC reports to the CISO, like those are all great. But 2
Yep.
things we do is when we do shift changes, so one analyst team going over to another, we do an AI generated report of all the tickets that were open, a summary of all the cases so that the person checking in for their shift can fully read and debrief. Think of it as like if you're at a hospital and you see like the doctors changing over and they like
Right.
have their clipboards and they read through. That happens today in SOC teams, but now we have AI that's helping to make sure that anything that might have been missed in that conversation is included there. Another thing that we're doing using agentic AI is we're doing it for QA. So quality assurance, any tickets that are closed, any incidents that are resolved, we run that through a Foundry agent that's checking, hey, did we do that right? Is there some tuning we should do? Are those the right notes that we put in? And it allows us to just constantly be improving how we're doing things. And a lot of AI that we use as a firm, as a managed XDR provider, is internal in order to benefit our customers. Hey, are we constantly tuning? Are we using AI to make sure we're doing it right? Are we making sure our analysts know what happened, 6 hours before they got there? And it's not necessarily, a flashy billboard anywhere. But to our SOC teams, our customers, they see it and they value it.
I love that. All right. So changing gears and again, alluding to something that you have fortunately already covered for us, which is AI sprawl is very much real. Agent sprawl in particular. I am definitely enemy number 1 for my org because I keep making agents to reduce the amount of questions that I have to answer. But, how should security leaders be taking into consideration AI sprawl and agent sprawl?
Sure. So we have like security agent sprawl, right? That's one thing. People go and they buy too many things and it's hard to manage. I remember maybe it was last year at a conference, we were talking about like the average security team has like 50 tools that they're paying for. And that's a mess. Not just the day-to-day operations, but the vendor onboarding, the vendor risk,
Right.
how you manage all that. Way too much. Should really focus on platform versus tools. But then you also have internally folks that are getting into, hey, I want to make emails easier. I want to solve this business process. I want to help my sales team here. I want to create an agent that helps with some firsthand contract review. I don't know. There's so many use cases.
Right.
And you don't want to shut it off, right? Because innovation is key to business. Creativity, it's good for morale, but it's also good for profit, right? So you don't want to stop people from being creative and innovative. I think that's where we have this. All right, we want people to be super creative. The SOC team also needs to be aware of it. And is that a risk vector, right? Is that something we now need to look at? And I think Agent 365 recently announced is just so exciting because now you can see all of that creation occurring in one place and start to give it, I know it's not called a security score, but you can start to score it and say, hey, what are my vulnerabilities here? Is it over permissioned? Is it not over permissioned? Because the last thing you want to say is, no, we're not doing it, right? Innovation, profit, those things, it hurts that, but also it introduces, shadow AI, right? Oh, you won't let me do it here? I'm gonna copy paste into my browser. Oh, you won't let me copy paste? I'm gonna take a picture on my phone, right? It's this escalation path. So you want to make it easy for people to be creative on monitored, controlled, safe places. I think that's where Agent 365 is entering in. I know we've been thinking about it a lot as a compliance tool, but I think analysts are going to have to pay attention to that. It'll be very interesting to see how that evolves over the next 6 months.
Interesting. Can you maybe expand upon that a little bit? Because you're right. I don't think a SOC would typically have much exposure to that. They maybe if they're SIM and XDR and whatnot. But yeah,
I mean, a lot of these agents are calling to the outside world,
right.
right? And that opens, hey, what are they connected to? What are they doing? Obviously, the compliance team is, enforcing policy.
Right.
They're monitoring it. They're looking for insider risk, all of that. Got it. But when it starts touching that outside world and it's digital, unfortunately, it becomes a SOC problem. And that's something, I think over the last year, you've seen, whether it's people saying bad things about you online, digital threats, is that a SOC problem, right? And it's unfortunate, but the SOC, because they manage that plane, the outside world and inside the business, I think they end up having to look at it. And this might be an opportunity for them to specialize and say, hey, we're going to have an analyst just focused on agentic AI within our environment. Maybe that's a new opportunity. I know we talk a lot about, is AI gonna reduce jobs? Is AI gonna take my job? There's fears. Those fears are real. People do fear that, but I think it's also creating new opportunities. So long as you're willing to learn and say, you know what? Yeah, this is what I used to do. Now with this new threat vector, I have this whole huge career path, and that's where I'm going to invest.
If I'm hearing that right, pretty much every conversation around AI, I usually ask them to pull out their crystal ball. But I feel like that is the most logical next 6 to 8 month kind of trajectory based on your position. I think that'd be fantastic if an organization have a specialist or maybe a little pod specialist to be able to focus and bring that energy in instead of just making a free for all.
I think I heard this joke once that said, if you're not using AI, someone is using AI to replace you, right? And I think that is the call to action of you're an analyst, right? You can't resist change. You monitor it. You monitor it way better than anybody else.
Right.
But how do you respond to it? Right. We're in the business of response. So when things are changing, you try to learn fast, right? Get ahead of it, use it for your own benefit, right? And therefore that becomes your career, your growth that's ultimately benefiting the business.
I love it. That is a fantastic take. Joe, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your expertise and your insight. Where can folks learn a little bit more about the world that you're working in?
Oh, yeah. Search me up on LinkedIn, Joe Cicero, but most importantly, check out Security Risk Advisors, SRA.io.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.